What is up, people? Hope you're doing great. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another video. Now it's time to preview some Premier League games again because this is obviously the start of the weekend. Good evening, I guess I should say, because I'm making my video a little bit late today. I apologize, guys. I was a little bit busy today, so I really struggled to kind of make the video earlier. But yeah, man, it's just always about grinding. I'm actually really tired. But man, I just gotta keep grinding. Just keep uploading the content. But yeah, man, appreciate the support you guys give me. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done so, guys, please subscribe to the channel. And please push the thumbs up button to like the video and push that notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. Now, obviously, guys, unfortunately for some fans, their teams are not going to be playing this weekend because some games have been postponed because of the funeral arrangement of Her Majesty's funeral, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth II. Obviously, I think her funeral is is on Monday. So as a result, some games have been postponed, especially games that were due to play on Sunday. I think the Man United versus Leeds game, the Liverpool versus Chelsea game, both those games have been called off for this weekend because of the funeral arrangement of Queen Elizabeth II. So yeah, man. Unfortunately for those fans, unfortunately for United fans, Liverpool fans, and Chelsea fans, are not going to see their team. But I guess you could say for Liverpool, it's a good thing because they're not going to play, and then we're going to go to the international break. By the time football comes back, probably their players are all going to be back because football is now going to resume on the weekend of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of October. In fact, it's the 31st of September, 1st and 2nd of October, I think, or 30th of September. Yeah, I think September ends on the 30th. But anyways, guys, it's that weekend, the opening weekend of October. That's when football is going to resume. And it's still the 16th today. So Liverpool have probably roughly 14 days off with regards to some of the players that were injured. Maybe by then they're going to be back. For City fans as well, it's like Laporte is going to be back after the international break, and hopefully Walker is also going to be back. So yeah, man, I think it's even though I really hate international breaks because sometimes in international breaks players get injured and they come back and they have an injury, they have a hamstring injury, they have an ankle injury, they have a broken foot or whatever, a broken metatarsal. So sometimes freak injuries happen during the international break, and then all of a sudden you don't have a certain player. And then also some players are talisman for their thingy. Like they are basically the talisman of their country. So like for example, a person like Haaland, he's gonna play every minute of every game that Norway are gonna play because he's the talisman of the Norwegian national team, football national team. As a result, there's a good chance he might pull up his hamstring or whatever. So that's why I really hate international breaks, to be honest. But obviously you can't force players not to play for their countries. That's obviously unfair to them, and really that's not cool. So yeah, man. Hopefully by the time all the players come back, we don't have any fresh injuries and things to that nature, because honestly, man, we don't need injuries at this moment in time. It's like after the international break, it's time to get up ahead of steam up until that moment when the World Cup is going to begin in like I think it starts on the 18th of November or something. So yeah, man, hopefully the international break goes well as far as injuries are concerned, and we don't get any fresh injuries. So obviously, guys, the purpose of this video is to preview the Premier League game. So let me get right into it. I'll just start with the first game of the weekend, which is going to be the Man City game versus Wolves. It's the early kickoff, 1:30 South African Standard Time, 12:30 UK time. And then obviously, before I go on, guys, I've already mentioned that some games have been postponed. So as a result, I'm only going to talk about 3 teams here. It's going to be Man City, Tottenham, and Arsenal, because those are the only Big 6 teams that are going to be playing. Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United are not going to be playing, so there's no need to talk about them. So yeah, man. The first game of the weekend is the early kickoff on Saturday. In fact, that's not the first game of the weekend. The first games of the weekend are gonna play today. But I'm just gonna mention. I'm just gonna start about the Man City versus Wolves game. Obviously, tough away fixture. It's always tough going away to Wolves. At Molineux, like the fans are really bouncy in that stadium. They get behind the team. The team plays a low block, and they just try and frustrate you, especially when they play against the big teams. They try and frustrate you. They try and hit you on the break. So they just try and make it as difficult as they can for you. Even though Wolves have kind of like they're not the Wolves of previous seasons whereby they've been really good defensively and it's been really difficult to score against them. They are conceding a few goals, especially towards the end of last season. They were shipping a few goals, and their defense was not as good as it usually is. Again, I apologize, guys. My niece is right next to me, so she might be making some noises here. So yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like I think Wolves is always a tough away fixture because they just try and make things difficult for you. Like it's hard to find easy chances against Wolves because they're going to try and play a low block. They're going to try and play a back five. They're going to try and overload the midfield to prevent spaces for the likes of De Bruyne, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, and our wingers. So we're really going to have to be efficient tomorrow, and we're really just going to have to take our chances when we get them. Score that one goal, score two if you can, just keep a clean sheet, win the game, move on. And also, what also will make this game a little bit more difficult is the fact that we played in the Champions League on Wednesday, and it's a quick turnaround playing on a Wednesday night and then playing again on a Saturday afternoon, the early kickoff on Saturday. Even though I guess the advantage was that we were playing at home in the Champions League, so we didn't really have to travel. It would be more tricky if we were playing away and we had to travel and then we had to come back to England and things of that nature. But we obviously were playing at the Etihad, so that's an advantage, I guess. But yeah, man, I think it's going to be a good game. Pep is going to be wanting a good performance from the lads because, excuse me, guys, we've had a few sticky performances so far this season. Even though we haven't necessarily lost a game, but we've had a few sticky performances here and there. Against Newcastle weren't that great. Yes, it's great to always come back. Shows the mentality of the side. Against Crystal Palace, we were 2-0 down, came back and won the game. Again, that shows the character and mental strength of the side. Dortmund went behind, and then we obviously came back and won the game. Obviously, this is all well and good saying that it shows the character of the side and the mental, and the mentality of the side, but it's not a trend you want. You don't want your team to be always conceding the first goal, because that kind of suggests that in order for you to get going, you need to go behind. So if the opposition doesn't score, then the game is just gonna falter out and it's gonna end up being a draw. So we need to obviously start a lot quicker. We need to move the ball a lot quicker. But I've been listening to some guys, some City fans, and there's some interesting thoughts, mainly guys from the UK, in terms of our performance on Wednesday against Dortmund, where obviously I already mentioned that performance in my previous video, that we were not good enough in that game. We just were too slow and all of that. And they said something interesting because in that game we played Grealish and Mahrez as our two wingers, and Grealish and Mahrez are inverted wingers. So what they do is that they want to cut inside their favorite foot. So Grealish is playing on the left and he's right-footed, and Mahrez is playing on the right and he's left-footed. What they want to do is to basically cut inside their right foot or right or left foot, either put across into the box or try and shoot and score from that. Now, the disadvantage with that is that you need to play a left back that will be left-footed, and you need to play a right back that will be right-footed. So, in order for your left winger and your left back and your right winger and your right back, in order for them to complement one another, if you're going to decide to play with inverted wingers who want to cut inside their favorite foot, whether it be right or left, you then need a fullback that's going to be overlapping, so that they can take the defender marking your winger away. Because basically when you play Like if you play a left wing who's right-footed who wants to cut inside, and then you play a left back who's left-footed who wants to go down the ball and put crosses into the box, then that gives the defender up against your winger two problems. Do I stay with the person who's a winger, or do I go with the person who's overlapping? If they stay with the winger, then the winger just gives the ball to the overlapping fullback, and the fullback puts an uncontested cross into the box. If they go with the fullback, then the inverted winger can cut inside, and they have more space to either get a shot or put a cross into the box. So I thought that was an interesting tactical analysis, and I guess Pep got it wrong in that game against Dortmund. Obviously, it doesn't matter now because we actually won the game, but I just think it was the wrong selection for that type of game, especially when you play against a team that's going to be playing a low block where spaces are going to be limited. You need to complement your left wing and your right wing with fullbacks that are going to be overlapping if you want to play Grealish and Mahrez. There were a lot of people kind of giving Grealish slander and saying that he's been a flop and all of that stuff. I'm not going to judge Grealish until the end of this season, because every time at City when we sign a winger, I give them a free pass in the first year. I don't care how much we signed him for. It was 100 million. That's not his fault. We decided that we want to pay 100 million for Jack Grealish, and therefore it's got nothing to do with him. Whether he's worth 100 million, not in a million years Jack Grealish is worth 100 million. Not many footballers are. But that's his price tag because we wanted him from Aston Villa and it was his release clause. It's exactly the same thing that Haaland is like in the market, I guess, because of what we bought him for. He's worth 51 million because we bought him for 51 million. But obviously, Haaland is probably worth over 150 million. I'm talking about pounds, obviously. So I'm not necessarily interested in talking about the finances and all of that stuff. I don't really care what we pay for players. It's not about money. I honestly don't care. We made the money through prize money, winning the Premier League, getting through to the Champions League final in that season before we signed Grealish. Therefore, if we decide to sign it on one player, whether it be Jack Grealish or whoever, and we decide to pay 100 million for them, then I couldn't be bothered, to be honest. I don't really care. But basically in that game, Mahrez was not good enough as well. But that doesn't mean then you just decide that you're going to call Mahrez a flop because of one bad game. Obviously, it's not one bad game from Grealish because he's not been consistent since he's come to City. But I've seen this before with previous wingers at City who went on and became successful at City. I'm talking about Leroy Sané. I'm talking about Raheem Sterling. I'm talking about Bernardo Silva. I'm talking about Mahrez. All these guys, when they first came to City, in their first season, they weren't good enough. And it looked like it was a bad signing for the football club. It looked like they didn't suit the way Pep Guardiola wanted to play. Even João Cancelo, who's a left back, who came as a right back to the football club. Everyone never really spoke about Cancelo after the 2019-20 season because he didn't even play many games that season. Then in his second season at the club, season 2020-21, he's all of a sudden one of the best fullbacks in the world. So I'm going to trust in Pep Guardiola that he can get the best out of Jack Grealish, because the club would have never signed Jack Grealish from Aston Villa if Pep Guardiola did not want him. Pep Guardiola always gives a green light with regards to the transfers that we make. If Pep Guardiola didn't want Jack Grealish, then we wouldn't have signed him. We did sign him, meaning Pep Guardiola has seen something in Jack Grealish that he feels like he can get out of him. And he feels like he's a quality player. He has enough quality to play in our team and to make an impact. So I still back Grealish. I'm still going to stand by him. I don't see it being constructive as a City fan in terms of criticizing him, because that's not going to help me in any shape or form. So I'm just going to back him, and yeah, man, we'll see what happens. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting tactical analysis from that Dortmund game. Obviously, I think because this game comes relatively quickly, so like the Wolves game, that is, I think there might be a few changes, a few tweaks in the team. I think Foden is going to come back into the side. Bernardo Silva is going to come back into the side. Maybe Julian Alvarez is going to start. I would actually like Julian Alvarez to start. I think Haaland is going to start. I don't think he's going to be rested. I think Pep is going to be looking forward to, like, he's just going to be looking to bury the game and just take Wolves out of the game so that he can rest his players after a comfortable lead. After having a comfortable lead. I think, yeah, man, at centre back, I think Diaz is going to come back. I don't know who his partner is going to be. I think Cancelo is going to stay at left back. And actually, in my opinion, I think we should put Gomez into the side, and John Stones should go to centre back, and we should play Joao Cancelo at right back. Because I just think that gives us more mobility in the team, and it gives us more of a balance in the team. So that's the team that I would like to see. I would like to see Cancelo at right back, Stones, Diaz at centre back, as well as Sergio Gomez at left back. Obviously, Walker at this moment, I'm not mentioning him because he's currently injured. So I'd like to see right back Cancelo, left back Sergio Gomez, and then Stones and Diaz at centre back. And then I think Rodri is going to start, and I think De Bruyne is probably going to start with Bernardo Silva in this game, and I think Foden is going to come in for Grealish, and maybe Alvarez is going to come in for Mahrez, and Haaland is going to stay in the team. But don't be surprised if Haaland doesn't start, because he has been playing quite a lot, and especially the fact that we played against Dortmund on Wednesday, and he pretty much played 90 minutes because he went off like at the 90th minute for Calvin Phillips. So like, don't be surprised if Haaland doesn't start the game. I don't think Pep is gonna like kind of not start him, because we're not gonna play any more games after this Wolves game until after the international break, and he's going to be going away to international duty with Norway, and he's not going to play in probably a week, because I think the international games are only starting Friday next week. So I just don't see Haaland being rested, to be honest. I just think Pep is going to want to get this game out of bed, win the game, move on, and yeah, man, go top of the table before Arsenal play. So yeah, because if we win the game, we go top of the Premier League, and obviously if Arsenal win again, they're going to go top again. So yeah, man, I just think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a difficult game. Wolves, I know Mugs, they never kind of, like, especially against the big teams, they don't like just lay down and say, oh, well, you can defeat me because you have more quality than me. They try and make things difficult, even though in previous months they haven't been as convincing as they have been in previous seasons in terms of defensively. But I still back Wolves to give us a tough game. But I'm gonna go for a 2-0 win for City. And then obviously the other game, Arsenal are playing as well tomorrow. I think tomorrow. Actually, I've realized I didn't check who Arsenal are playing, so I actually don't know who they're playing. Who are they playing? Are they playing Brentford or something? No, they're not playing Brentford. Okay, guys. Like I've honestly I forgot who Arsenal are actually playing. Let me just check here on my phone. Okay, guys, welcome back. Obviously, just checked who the London clubs are going to be playing. Excuse me, guys, man. Like, well, I'm sorry. I'm really kind of drowsy at the minute. Kind of tired. But yeah, man. I just want to get the video done. And maybe I'll just take a nap. But yeah, man, guys. Like, Arsenal are actually playing Brentford, so I actually guessed right there. Arsenal will be playing Brentford. Now, obviously, Arsenal are gonna. Well, actually, the last time Arsenal played was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So actually, Arsenal have been played in 2 weeks, because their game in the Europa League this match week, which was supposed to play on Thursday, like this past Thursday, so yesterday basically, it was against PSV and it was postponed. Obviously, football was postponed last week, last weekend, and then yeah, so they basically last played. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. They last played 2 weeks ago in the Europa League, and they didn't really start their main players in that game. So their main players really last played against Man United 3 weeks ago, basically now, because that game was Sunday 3 weeks ago. So yeah, man, there might be some problems with regards to Arsenal's fitness levels, because they haven't played in a while. Even though Brentford also haven't played in a while, because Brentford are not in any European competitions. Therefore, they also last played 3 weeks ago, because a week ago there was no football. Like last weekend there was no football. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago, man. Because last week goes back to last weekend. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. Arsenal last played 2 weeks ago, and Brentford same, because Brentford are not in any European competitions. So Brentford last played basically 2 weekends ago. So last week in terms of the weekend, because they didn't play they didn't play midweek last week, and they also haven't played midweek this week, because they're not in any European competitions, and obviously they didn't play last weekend because no one played last weekend. So actually, I think it's going to even itself out then, because if like the fitness levels in terms of sharpness for both teams has gone down, it's going to be on both sides. And actually, Arsenal probably have the advantage because they did play last week in the Europa League. Even though they didn't play in the Premier League, they did play last week in the Europa League. So yeah, man, I think it's going to be a good game of football. I like Brentford. They really play an attractive brand of football. They try and attack you. Obviously, Ivan Toney is going to be full of confidence, fresh off his first England call-up. And then, yeah, he's been called up by Gareth Southgate for the English national team, for the latest squads, basically, that are going to be playing in the UEFA Nations League. And then Brentford, man, they're a good side, man. They play an attractive brand of football. They're really a good side. They try and attack. Like they find the right balance between defense and attack. They try and attack you, but they also defend well. So they're a good side, man, Brentford. I think it's going to be a tough game for Arsenal. It's not just going to be an easy game where they can just roll over Brentford. I think it's going to be a difficult game for them. And obviously, the challenge for Arsenal is to now bounce back after that defeat in the Premier League. So their last Premier League game basically was a defeat against Man United. So now it's just for them. I think it's all about just bouncing back and just putting that W on the board so that you can maintain your position at the top of the table. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think I haven't heard anything in terms of Arsenal players being injured. So yeah, I think Gabriel Jesus is fit. Pretty much every player that they have that they have at their disposal, I think, is fit. So they're probably going to field their strongest side against Brentford. So it's going to be a tough game, man. But I think Brentford are going to make it difficult for them. Excuse me, there, I just kicked the ring light, so that's why I kind of moved. So I think it's going to be a difficult game for both sides, to be honest. Yeah, man, but I think Arsenal have enough quality from what I've seen from them this season, whereby they're really good in terms of their patterns of play. Like it's evident that they've been working under Arteta for quite a while. Gabriel Jesus has been a welcome addition to the team. Zinchenko has also been a welcome addition to the team. They just play with a lot more intensity. They play with a lot more physicality. So I think Arsenal have enough quality to beat Brentford. Just that still doesn't negate the fact that it's going to be a difficult game, because Brentford are not just gonna you can't just roll over Brentford because of the quality that they have in their team. So yeah, man, I think it's going to be a difficult game for Arsenal, but I'm going to go for an Arsenal win. I think they bounce back after losing their first game in the Premier League. The last time they were in action in the Premier League, I think they're going to win 2-1 against Brentford. Because I don't think, like, obviously they have all their players fit. And I just don't think if they field their strongest side, they're going to struggle to beat Brentford, simply because they have way more quality than Brentford, and we're starting to see the patterns of play from Mikel Arteta's team in terms of what he wants from his team and in terms of the level of intensity that he wants his team to play at. So yeah, man, I just back Arsenal. I think Arsenal are going to win. Yeah, I think they're going to win 2-1 though, because I think it's going to be a difficult game against Brentford. London derby as well, so Brentford are going to be really up for it. Their fans are going to be up for it. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game for Arsenal, but I'm just like narrow Arsenal win 2-1. And then obviously the last game I'm going to be looking at is the Spurs game versus Leicester. Now, for Spurs, this is like a must-win game, whereby they need to obviously bounce back from losing in the Champions League against Sporting Lisbon, a team that they would have been expected to beat, simply because they have more than enough quality in their team to beat a team like Sporting Lisbon, who don't really invest in their squad. They really play with loads of youth players. But they did manage to beat Tottenham. Tottenham were passive in that game. They were lethargic. They didn't really create much in terms of chances. And as a result, they were punished by Sporting Lisbon. Sporting Lisbon were just efficient in the counter attack, and they punished them and ended up winning the game. So I think it's gonna be a tricky test for Tottenham in terms of Leicester. Even though I think Leicester have kind of fallen off a cliff compared to the Leicester of 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago, when they basically had consecutive finishes in the top 5 of the Premier League, where they finished 5th. They just missed out on Champions League football, and they also won an FA Cup 2 seasons ago. So I think, yeah, it's basically this Leicester team is a shadow of the former Leicester team under Brendan Rodgers, who were really good and who always made it difficult for tough teams. I just think they haven't had significant investment onto their team, Leicester that is, and as a result, they're really struggling at the moment. It's like a bit stale at the moment. It's kind of gone a bit stale. I just wanna like my thing, my hammy is thing here is itching. Yeah, man. So Leicester have gone a bit stale because they really they haven't invested heavily onto the team, especially last summer. They just bought in one player, I think, one outfield player. And they lost Kasper Schmeichel, who was a character and a real leader in the dressing room. So yeah, man, I just think it's gone stale at Leicester. I think Brendan Rodgers is really in danger of losing his job. I think he will be sacked sooner rather than later because they're just on a bad run of form. They're just not getting any results. I think they're bottom of the Premier League as it stands. So if they lose to Spurs and they lose heavily, I think Brendan Rodgers could be facing the sack. And I don't think he would actually demand being sacked or walking away by mutual consent, simply because the team hasn't had significant investment. And as a result, it's hard to improve a team. Like Brendan Rodgers overachieved with the team that he had in terms of finishing fifth and finishing fifth for 2 consecutive seasons and winning an FA Cup. What he needed from the board after having those finishes and winning that FA Cup was significant investment so that he can keep improving his team and so that he can try pushing into those Champions League places. If you stay if you stand still in the Premier League, you're gonna get left behind because every team in the Premier League invests. Every team in the Premier League gets loads of money in terms of broadcasting revenue, and as a result, every team in the Premier League is able to invest. So if you stand still, teams are going to catch up to you very quickly, and they might potentially go ahead of you if you don't invest in your team. And that's what Leicester have done. Basically, they haven't invested in their team, and as a result, certain teams like West Ham, Newcastle, so those teams they've caught up to them, and as a result, it's very difficult for Leicester to kind of get results and to go back to that form where they were in the top six and they were really playing some nice stuff. And they've also lost some key players because they also lost Wesley Fofana this offseason, who went to Chelsea. So they've lost some of their key players, some of their better players. And I think Maddison is going to be looking for a move away from Leicester simply because it's stale at the moment at Leicester. It's a bit stagnant. They're standing still, and a player of Maddison's quality is going to be thinking about making the England national team. He played well for Leicester last season, but still didn't make the English national team. So he might be thinking that maybe he needs to move to a bigger club where he can get game time at the top level, so that he can give himself a chance of being picked for that team. I think Youri Tielemans, he's head to somewhere else. I think he's not going to sign a new contract at Leicester. He has less than a year left on his contract. So by January, he can start negotiating with teams outside the Premier League and agree on a pre-contract agreement to join whichever team he negotiates with in June of 2023. So I just think, yeah, man, Leicester in big trouble, man. I think they're going to lose some of their key players, and they haven't invested heavily into their team. And it would be great if they lost a player like Tielemans and they sold him for something. It's going to be a big blow for them losing Tielemans for nothing. And then I think Maddison is going to be itching for a move away from Leicester by next season, really, because he's not really gonna take the next step in his career if he stays at Leicester City. So yeah, man, I just think Leicester are really off form at this moment in time. So unless Spurs are really bad tomorrow, I just don't see any reason why they wouldn't win that game. Especially with the fact that Conte has probably given them a kick in the backside for their bad performance against Sporting Lisbon. So they're going to be wanting to prove a point against Leicester. So I really think that Spurs really have to be really bad in order to not get at least a win against Leicester City. So with that being said, I'm going to go for a Spurs win. I'm going to go for a Spurs 2-0 win. In fact, I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs. I think Spurs are gonna bounce back and kind of put that disappointment of losing against Sporting Lisbon behind them. So yeah, guys, that unfortunately brings us to the end of the video, because I've looked at the games of the Big Six, and there are no other games apart from the three I've mentioned, because Chelsea, Liverpool has been postponed, as well as Man United, Leeds. Yeah, man, guys. I don't know when I'm gonna make another video. In fact, I will make another video reviewing the games of the weekend. I don't know. I'll either make it on Sunday or Monday. But then I don't know when I'm gonna make another video. Because I don't think like you guys are gonna be interested like in international football and stuff like that. So I don't think I should make a video about that. I don't actually even watch a lot of international football. So I'll just maybe try and find some topics that I could go through, like some football topics I could go through next week. But yeah, man, guys, please keep supporting the channel. But I will back with like regular. I will be back with regular content by next week, after the international break, because football is obviously going to be coming back at that time. So yeah, guys, man, I appreciate you guys' support, yeah, man, please continue to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video, and also please push the like button so that you can give the video a few likes. That really helps as well. I appreciate the support, guys. Have a great evening. Enjoy the games tomorrow and on Sunday. And yeah, man, my name is Lukas Chikela, and thank you for watching the video, guys. Have a great evening.